Okay, I just thought I'd do something a little bit different for a video. It's just going to be a short video, or should be short, on my thoughts on the new rules that have been sort of hinted at on the Warhammer community website. So we're going to go through that and try and analyse what's going on there. One of the first things on the list was the mention that there's going to be 3 ways to play. So it sounds new, but I don't think it's going to turn out to be that very new or anything totally out of the ordinary. It sort of exists in Age of Sigmar already. So they've got the open way to play, the narrative way to play, and the matched way to play. So the open, in my interpretation anyway, it's going to be a total free-for-all where points are not really going to matter. You're just getting all these stuff together, you're just having a bit of a roll of the dice with your mates or whatever. So I mean that's just no restrictions, you just do what you want there. Matched play, for me that sounds like it's going to be sort of like a current series that they've already got, but it's just under a different name this time. In supplements, this one's the Gaskell one, and other supplements you have Echoes of War, and these reflect past sort of story missions where you play them. It's very story based narrative, as said in the title. So there's a few of these about. We've played a few, they're all really good, so I expect them just to continue this line, which I'll be really happy about, because I think you have the most fun playing these ones. And there's more Echoes of War, but there's also Altar of War missions where they're not tied into the stories in the book, but they're just good missions for your army. So I think that's what you can expect from narrative play. And the third way is matched play. So I think this is going to be just the way people play it already, which is the points base, trying to make it as balanced as possible, as much as you can make it, and it's going to be relatively how it's played now. That's how I feel. And this ties in with the next section that they had on the list, and it was army selection. So it said they wanted to complement players who sort of stick to a regimented kind of system and try to recreate the way armies are written in the stories on the battlefield. So I mean, that's what I attempt to do, so that's music to my ears. But again, I don't think it's going to be anything out of the ordinary, because I think they've sort of covered it in the latest edition, or the current edition rather, where you got Unbound and Battleforged, where you could just about take anything you wanted with Unbound. I know that was Unbound is very helpful. I do use Unbound, and Battleforged, of course, you get the bonuses for taking armies that adhere to the restrictions. So one of the things that they say, you're going to get command points for using something like what would, I suppose we would say, a Battleforged army is today. So command points that actually have cropped up rather recently in the Gathering Storm. So in the past, I suppose there would have been like Apocalypse strategy cards, I think. But here they are already done for us. Let's try and find it. Here we are. So I don't know if they're going to expand on this table, but I think they will. Basically, it's, if you're familiar with Age of Sigmar, which surprisingly I'm not, but I know that the Tzeentch book, you roll a dice and then you get that many dice to, you roll your dice and then that's how many dice you've got in your pool. I always thought that was a pretty good idea, and you can replace those dice and whatnot. But in here you've got, you start off with an allocated amount of points in these missions. I think you start with 3, and these all cost a different value. So 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2. You can do certain things like automatically bring on reserve rolls, or you can redeploy your unit, and you can re-roll any single dice roll, and all these cost points. So I think that's pretty good. I like the idea of having a command element where you've got something in reserve that isn't actually your figures in reserve. You've got some sort of tactical nuance. This sort of existed in the very early editions of 40k as well, where your armies used to have a strategy rating, and used to someone like the Space Marines would have much more tactical acumen than, let's say, the Orcs. so they would have an advantage just for being very capable of war. So I think that would be interesting to see what they do with there, but it does exist in a certain form, so that's what I expect from that. Alright, then the next thing on the menu that they put was movement. So what they're doing is, it's nothing new, but it's very, very old, this one. So it looks like they're going to do away with sort of unit types in a way where, you know, all the infantry moved 6 inches, jet bikes and bikes moved 12, and so on, jump units 12. There was a core rule for, and then things fit under that umbrella, which was handy for me because having a lot of armies, it's better to have an umbrella rule and things go under the umbrella rule rather than try to remember what each squad does individually. I do see where they're going with it, where you can have more individual type units where they don't have to conform to such rules. Hopefully it won't be too bad to remember, but like I say, this already exists right back in the day, so we'll have a look at something here. So, 2nd edition, dusty old book. I had to go on the archives for this one. So, right, we're looking at Space Marines. So your ordinary movement is 4 inches for Space Marines and enhanced Space Marine type people. So there's your basic move. So you're dropping 2 inches. That'll be. It's been so long since since we've done that. It'll be interesting to see how that turns out, since everything is pretty much based on 6-inch movement. It's sort of, it can be a sort of systematic approach sometimes. So going down, dropping 2 inches, going back to that'll be interesting. I don't have a problem with that as long as it makes everything interesting. But another interesting thing is, I've got another marker. Right, so just to get a different variety of units, just so I'm getting an understanding of how fast things can move. So we've got a guardsman, basic guardsman. 4 is the movement. Rough Riders, so the Warhorse is moving 8, so cavalry is double that, so sort of like now, but Ogrons, things that have got large or long legs, I suppose, they move a bit faster. It's 6. So we can see how it's not just 6-inch move and 12-inch move like you see with from infantry to jump infantry, or from infantry to jet bikes. It's 6 to 12, and that was pretty much the law. There's little incremental additions to your move. So another one is quite interesting is Eldar, obviously known to be fleet-footed and the rest of it. So Avatar is moving 6. He's got long legs, especially the 4-year-old one. And the Aspect Warriors, he's where it is interesting because there's a variety of movement here. So Howling Banshees, they're the fastest here. It's 6. Dire Avengers, Fire Dragons, Scorpions, Hawks, all at 5. So that's interesting. Dark Reapers are at 4. So you've got a different variety of movement even within the Eldar, and I think that's the best sort of benchmark to see what kind of variety of movement that could come back. So hopefully it won't be too much to remember with what moves what, but it could be quite exciting to see different sort of the way the game progresses with different units being able to cover different bits of the board. It'll become less systematic to a degree, so that'll be pretty cool. Right, next up it is shooting, and the teasing an armor save modifier. So apparently this has been asked for a lot. I think this is going to be good. Anything that can make Space Marines a little bit more durable, because it's a mixed bag of feelings when either something's dead or it's not. I do like the armor degrading style that they used to go for. So again, this is from the dusty old book, the rule book. So I've opened up at this page because it is interesting. I wonder if this will come back. It's basic modifiers, things where instead of you getting a cover save, it actually, and things of that nature, let's say you got soft cover, you actually -1 to your ballistic skill, and if you're behind hard cover, it's a -2. So I wonder if that sort of thing will come back. And if you're a large target, such as a tank or a land raider, you get a +1 to your ballistic skill. So larger things are actually easier to hit. So that'll be something to wonder if that'll come back. But anyway, back to save and throws. So I dug this out just to see what they were doing in the olden days, try and refresh the old memory, because it was a long time ago this, so I was just a wee grot then. So save modifiers, So back when you had mesh armour, it was a 5+ save, so a bolt pistol, that gives you a -1, so you need a 6 to save. That was your core. Armour save is a 5, so that would drop to 6. So surprisingly, a plasma pistol at this in this edition was only a -1 save modifier. But we're going to have a look at some of the guns to see where we might be at. But your standard bolt gun is what we're looking at. It's a -1 to your save. So Chaos Marines, if you're firing at them, Space Marine on Chaos, Space Marine action, they'll be saving on a 4 against a bolt gun, which is makes the bolt gun better, which definitely is a nice thing. But it's not going to help your power armor much if you're on the end of that. But it's still very interesting. You got Melter gun -4, Flamer -2, even a las gun's -1. So I expect these to change, but that's what we're sort of looking at. And we'll just move on to the weapons here. So we'll open up this this old one as well. Right, so we're going to have a look at, find the shooty weapons and the heavy weapons. So assault cannons -3. Back in the days where I used to have to roll a jam dice and that would jam. Heavy bolters -2. Plasma cannon, as it was known, a heavy plasma gun, -2, -6. So it had 2 different profiles there. That's a very old orc one as well. But what we're here to see is the las cannon, which is a -6 save modifier, multi-melter -4. So these are in the days where Terminators, you saved on a 2, but you did it on 2d6. So this is where heavy weapons came into play. So if they somehow bring Terminators saving back on 2d6, that would just really bring Terminators back, I feel. But that's a look at what could be the case for different armor saves and how it can be, how it was done in the past. So you're looking at bolt guns -1, things like las cannons -6, and everything in between. It's about a 4 or a 6, depending on your gun. So that'll be interesting to see that come back. I'm not sure if it's going to be as nasty as that. I think my feeling of it would be bolt guns, you don't get any minus. It would only be until you start including like special weapons. You might get a -2 for a plasma gun, maybe it's a -1 for a flamer, that sort of thing. It wouldn't be quite as severe as that. Right, we're going to tackle the big one. It's the combat phase. This is the one that I feel has got the most sort of impact to the game. So it's quite important that this is done right for 40k. Otherwise, it's going to really upset things. But I don't think it's going to. I think that the way that they've explained it a bit poorly. They might have done it on purpose, but I think this is the way it's going to work out. The way it's written is, it says if you charge into combat, you'll get to go first, and that's just how basic they've said it just about. But I think this is the way it's going to be. After umming and ahhing and thinking, well, of all the possibilities of the outcome, after analysing it and thinking about what they probably mean is this. So obviously nobody really knows, but this is how I think it'll go down. So this is what happens currently. Is you've got 2 models, both initiative step 4. The charger goes in, and they both fight at initiative step 4. They both roll the dice, it doesn't matter in which order, but they both get to fight. And I think this is how it's going to be, how it was sort of explained. I don't think it's as straightforward as you get to go first. I think what happens is if you're both the same initiative step, you get to go first on the charge, almost like your initiative 4.5 for Marine, if you will. I don't think it's quite as straightforward as you get to go first, let's say with a Thunderhammer. You go in, yeah, technically initiative step 1 with an unwieldy weapon. I don't think you're going to get to go first. I only think you're going to get the benefit of the doubt if you're the same initiative and you're on the charge. So the reason why I think it'll be this way is because it'll things have their place in 40k. So it's not a small thing that'll happen if it's the drastic way that they've explained it, what people think it's going to be like. What'll happen is a lot of armies are based around the initiative, like the Eldar for combat. They rely on going first. That's what they do, and obviously they are weaker because of it. But they go first. That's their thing. You've got the Marine, who's the you know, the cornerstone is the benchmark. You either go up or down from the Space Marine. So things change as a give and take. So Eldar, they're an army based around going first. The Dark Eldar even more so. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got Necrons and Orcs. So Necrons, they go last in the combat at initiative step 2. And they're very, very durable. So they're meant to go last, take a bit of a kicking, but they can take it. That's the Necrons' whole bag. The Orcs, sort of like that, but the durable is in they've got lots of numbers, or at least they should. If you're playing your boys, right, you've got to have a load of boys. So big squad of Orcs land on your unit. They go last, but they can take a bit of a kick in, and then they give you loads of attacks back. That's the whole role of the Orcs. And that's the other end of the spectrum. And then on top of that, you've got weapons included in that. So you've got powerful weapons like a Thunderhammer and Power Fists, Chain Fists, Power Axes. They're unwieldy, so they go last. And there's a reason why they go last, is because they're so powerful. So you're given a chance to actually try and strike damage. That's the risk. It's always got to be a risk. It can't be certainty. Otherwise, there's no real game involved. So what would happen if it was if the wheels came off the whole thing, and it just was if you charged and you went first with your Thunderhammer, you would just see nothing but Thunderhammers and Power Fists and things of that nature. Because the chances of surviving a charge off, let's say 5 Terminators with a chaplain or something, just to make sure of it, you go in and you all strike at strength 8 and all the rest of it, just absolutely, you would pretty much wipe out any unit or damage it so severely that they wouldn't be able to fight back effectively. So I really don't think that's going to be the way it goes, because there's a reason why you're in Terminator armour, and that's because you're supposed to be taking a stick, and that's the reason why you got a Storm Shield. So, and that counts for a lot of things. It's you'd never, if you were given the option 15 points and you were going to go first on the charge, you'd never take a Power Sword, you'd always take a Power Axe. Because, of course, there's the argument, yes, you go first when you charge in, let's say with this Power Axe. There's no guarantee that you'll get your kills, and then in the next round of combat where no one's charged, then you'll strike last. I understand that, but still, the way the game is, things are so powerful, you can pretty much get a wipeout on certain turns when you run in. Of course, it might lean towards getting bigger units, but then, you know, it's... I like the idea of going towards bigger units, but I don't think that's the case, just because as the core of 40k is, it's a give and take world where you have higher initiative but you're weaker, or you have low initiative like a Necron but you're stronger and more durable, and it's the same for weapons. Weaker weapons strike first, like a Power Sword, or Thunderhammer's nasty weapons strike last. So I think that's the way it'll go. So just to reiterate, on the charge against someone with a naturally higher initiative, the Banshee will go first. That's what I believe will happen. And I don't think it'll be any other way, unless, you know, you're starting to talk about breaking the game pretty much. But if you're at both the same initiative step, I think that's when you'll be given the benefit of the doubt that the charger goes first. I think that'll be a great rule if that happens, because it will really make you want to get that charge off. It will really help a lot. Right, then the last thing that they mentioned on the list was morale. So what they've got is, instead of just breaking or falling off the board or you don't, you either, well, you don't fall off the board, but you either break or you don't. They're thinking that they should get rid of that. So what they've got is, after, it says this turn, so I don't know if it's going to include the shooting phase and the assault phase, but it's loosely worded. But let's say it's just the shooting phase, and you'd have to take a morale check. Maybe the 25% rule will still come into play if you've taken that casualties, but it's unclear. This is why I'm not really going to talk about it this much, because it's very unclear what will happen here. But the gist of it is, you roll a d6, you add the number of models lost this turn, you subtract your leadership, and you take that many casualties. So I've tried to think about this the best I can to see how it would sort of work, and I've even tried a few examples. But the reality is, I don't think you'll know what will happen until you start playing lots and lots of games and you see how it takes shape. It seems like a good idea, but there's not enough information to understand what where it falls. Do you take a morale check first, and then instead of falling back you take this additional leadership, or is it in place of your leadership? That sort of thing. Do you take it at the end of your turn, or do you take it at the end of every phase like you currently do? It's just too many questions there, so I haven't got much to say on morale, but it sounds interesting, but I need more information before I come to a decision on that one. But I think the big one was the combat phase. That's I'm sure that's what everyone's analysing at the moment, but like I said, I don't think it'll be as extreme as it sounds, or they've made it sound. I think it'll be very reasonable, and if it is that reasonable way that I think it, I interpret it, then I'll be very happy with that if that's the way it goes. If it goes the other way, I think the world will explode.